said I think the Lakers were 25 and 32 without him, or with him on the floor actually. And then every single player I have on this list, their teams are never going to be below 500 with them on the court.
Hello and welcome back to the TV on Basketball podcast with your host TV. It's been a long time, but I'm back on the pod. It's been way too long, but I'm back with the return episode, and of course I had to get a guest on. I got my guy Justin from the ThisJust1n Show. How's it going, dude?
It's been going great, and I've been saying it is way too long. Like, you are one of the few people I trust to talk basketball with. So
Yeah,
thanks for having me on.
yeah, of course. It's going to be a little bit. It's been over a month since I recorded a podcast, but I had to get in. I had to kind of go back like slowly into the pod game. And of course, I got my guy Justin here, who I know I have great chemistry with. So you know there's going to be a great episode for today. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy episode. I do have to plug my other platforms door before we start. Remember to follow at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for updates on the podcast and for other great content. If you are new to, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That would be highly appreciated. And for all my podcast listeners, remember to subscribe and leave a review if you're on Apple. And for Spotify, Anchor, Podbean, just continue to show your support in any way possible. I greatly appreciate it. And of course, all of Justin's links, the show, Facebook, YouTube will all be in the description below and also in the link tree, so you can find him everywhere. He's been on the show before. You definitely know who he is, and I've also been on his show, so you definitely seen me around if you're fans of him. But for my first episode back, I'm not going to be like, you know what, let's recap everything I've missed over the past month. No. We're going to come in straight away. We're going to get everything like right started. Top 10 players in the league today. I'm not going fully deep into the pool. That's for next week, which we're going to be doing our top 10 players all time. But
Ooh, that's the one I can't wait for.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good one. But for this week, kind of dip my feet back into it. Top 10 players in the league today. Me and Justin have compiled our top 10 list, and we're going to go back and forth, see where we disagree, see where we agree. We already discussed before the show that we have a few players that could be kind of like, it's weird like ranking these players nowadays, especially with the new wave of players coming in, but I'm extremely excited to talk about this. And yeah, of course, this is going to be a great episode. I'm excited to be back in the game. Going to be back to uploading either one or two episodes a week. You'll definitely see that, but also just look for daily posts on my Instagram and also TikTok, so also look out for that. I went on a lot of rambling. I had a lot of things to get off my chest ever since I come back, but Justin, are you ready to get into this? I'm super excited to talk about this.
I don't know, because your viewers may unsubscribe from my channel after I tell you all who I have from 10 right up through to 1. So I'm a bit nervous.
Yeah, no worries. I'm a bit nervous too. I kind of I think I talked to you beforehand. I already kind of shared some of my opinions on some players on TikTok the other day, and man, people have been roasting me, especially for one guy I have a lot higher than I have some other people on this list that people might be surprised with.
Give us number 10, TV.
Oh yeah.
10.
We're gonna get into it very soon. But we also have to talk about our one or two honorable mentions. I'm gonna start off with Justin. Let's hear Justin. Who are the one or two players that you have just off your top 10?
You're going to be shocked, because you're like, how are they not in his top 10? I went back and forth, and right before I started the show, I actually had Ja Morant in my top 10.
Oh, nice.
I just bumped him out for two reasons. One, obviously the defensive end of the floor, and I don't know how much to make of it, TV, but the Grizzlies played like 800 basketball when he wasn't playing. Now, I'm not here to suggest the team is better without him, but I don't know what to make of that. Yeah. So, the defensive end of the floor was my problem with having Ja Morant in the top 10, because every other player on my list is at least average or above. Okay. Well, that's not true. That's not true. But yeah. Two of them that are defensive liabilities. So I have him, Jimmy Butler. Like, every time I'm ready to write off Jimmy Butler off the top 10, then he shows me how great he really is. And like some of those games in the Eastern Conference Finals, TV, like
insane.
it was clear he was the best player on the floor, and that's including Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. He was absolutely insane in some of those games. But like, the tendency not to be great from three, and you know, sometimes I wonder, like, are you really a superstar? Like, I hedged my bets with him. So I
Yeah.
had him just outside. Those are the two really wanted to mention, or those are two. Trey Young as well. I
Okay.
love Trey Young's ability to make players better on the offensive floor. But again, part of the DeJounte Murray trade is that Trey Young is so terrible at the point of attack on
Yeah.
defense. So he couldn't make my top 10 for those reasons.
Okay. Interesting. Because a couple of those guys, we're gonna get into it because we're not gonna be done talking about them in this episode. But in terms of my honorable mentions, you already mentioned one of them, Trey Young. He was the one who was honestly right there for me at number 10. I think that he is, even though like he has shown that he could like score with the best of them, is one of the best passers in the league. I still believe he's an underrated player. I think people look at his defensive liabilities a bit way too much. I mean, we don't talk about Steph Curry like as much as we do like Trey Young. I mean, whenever we talk about Trey Young, they can be like, oh, below average defender, he's gonna get caught every time. He's honestly like his offensive ability just carries his game, and like 30 and 10 over the last 2 years, basically on average, he is just that great of a player. And this one, I honestly, this guy I want to put in the top 10, but it's just been such a weird year for him last year. Damian Willard. Damian Willard for me like was like kind of a tough one, like where to rank him. I ultimately had him outside of the top 10. I think that he can prove me wrong coming into the season. He could maybe like re-solidify himself in that top 10. But before his injury, he wasn't playing his best. And then, of course, he had the injury, and the Trailblazers played absolutely horrible for the remainder of the season. I had to put Damian Lillard out of there. I'm not going to say he's fully out of there. I think he could definitely reinsert himself, but he is someone I also left off my top 10 for that very reason. I just need to see how he's going to bounce back from this injury for sure. But getting right into this top 10, I'm going to start with myself. At number 10, I'm going to go with Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. I think this year, I know it wasn't the best end, especially in the NBA Finals for Jason Tatum. Some may argue that Jaylen Brown was the best player in that series in the NBA Finals. But Jason Tatum proved this year he can be the number one guy on a finals team, championship team, however you want to call it. I think his improved play on the defensive end and his ability, especially at the end of the season, to defer to other players was something which I saw a lot of growth in his game, which we haven't seen in seasons prior. Yes, he was an all-star. Yes, he was an all-NBA caliber player. But we were looking for him to add extra dimension to his game, which I believe I saw at the end of last season. He became a better passer. And he's like I think he understood it. He didn't have to take every shot at the end of the game. Is his decision making still kind of iffy? Yes. But I do believe that he has solidified himself in that top 10 elite scorer, average to above average defender, in my opinion, Jason Tatum is. And the fact that he was like the best player on a final Celtics team, which if things kind of bounced their way, they probably could have won the championship. He could have like won a championship in that season. But I still think Jason Tatum still has proven enough that he belongs in this top 10 list. Again, it was really close. Trey Young. It was really close for me, but at the end of the day, I got to go with Jason Tatum. He's just like, for someone of his size to be able to score that ability and just the way he's improved in other areas of his game, I had to put him in the top 10. But Justin, who do you have at number 10?
That's why we can talk basketball TV. So actually, before they started the show, before I knocked Ja Morant out of my top 10, I had, for full disclosure, I had Ja at 9 and Jason Tatum at 10, just like you. But right before the show, I got some cold feet. So I went with my hometown bias at number 10, Devin Booker.
Devin Booker.
You talk about, improved stuff, and I thought clutch scoring down the stretch that you've seen him develop that ability to finish games. Unfortunately, again, we didn't see it in postseason, but you can definitely see, like, I thought the Suns would have made a huge drop off when Chris Paul was out for a part of the season, but I think they played above 700 basketball without him, and that's due to the fact that I think in terms of fourth quarter clutch scoring, Devin Booker was among the top 5 in the league. And then when you look across, I think he was the only player to ever average 25, 5, and 5 on the league's the team with the league's best record and not win MVP. Not that I'm
Yeah.
saying he deserved MVP, because I think we all know Nikola Jokic won it fair and square. But it just goes to show the growth, and he has developed into, at the very least, I can say, an average to above average defender. You're not going to target him on defense, that's for sure. So and he's always been an underrated passer in my estimation from the time he has been in Phoenix, before he got Chris Paul and Ricky Rubio. When they asked him, to do a lot of playmaking, he has always shown that ability. And for me, me, TV, I view facilitating and playmaking at a very high standard for superstars.
Yeah.
So that's why I have him at my 10th spot.
Yeah, no, that's completely respectable. Surprisingly enough, I do not actually have him in my top 10. I know your Sansa. Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's a fair shot. It's a fair point for Devin Booker. He's definitely improved, especially on the playmaking end. Again, something like Jason Tatum early on in his career, he was kind of like, he had that tunnel vision where he was like, I'm a scorer. I'm gonna keep on scoring. As he grew in his game, especially going deep into these playoffs, I think he's learned that he doesn't have to do that all the time. He can defer to other players like a Chris Paul, like other players on his team. And I think Jason Tatum, along with Devin Booker, has kind of learned that lesson too. They've definitely improved in their playmaking, and honestly, very respectable place for him at number 10. No problems with it, but I do not have him. I didn't even have him in my honorable mentions. I still think I need to see a bit more from Devin Booker, but fair play at number 10.
Yeah, I couldn't be a Phoenix Suns fan and not plug my guy. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Sadly, I cannot make any case for any Raptor in the top 10, but it's fine. Scotty Barnes is going to be there in the next 2 years. Coming in at number 9 for myself. You mentioned him in your honorable mentions. I'm actually going to put him here at number 9. Give me Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler at number 9. I get what you're saying. Like, sometimes, especially in the regular season, like, you don't really talk about him because he's averaging like 21, 7, and 5. It's not like crazy numbers, but always in the playoffs with Jimmy Butler, he reminds you, you know what? Maybe he's like a borderline top 5 player in the league, especially in the playoffs. This guy is a playoff performer by its absolute definition. I just love the way that he is able to come up in big moments. You could talk about the NBA Finals like performances he did against the Lakers in the bubble, absolutely insane, including like 2 40+ point games. Even in that Eastern Conference Finals, when the Miami Heat felt like they were down and out against the Boston Celtics, Jimmy Butler legitimately carried them to victory when Kyle Lowry was injured, really didn't give you much. Not much on the offensive end from Bam Adebayo. It was Jimmy Butler carrying them through that series. Eventually getting to a Game 7. It really shouldn't have gone there. But Jimmy Butler has just been that great of a player. Still, honestly, in my opinion, one of the best one-on-one defenders in this league. And even though like he is not a like fantastic 3-point shooter, I think like he's shown, especially in the playoffs, when he is asked to make those shots, he can make them. And like he can go on a run where he hits 2 or 3 threes in a row, and you're like, what? It's Jimmy Butler. There's no way he's gonna be able to hit those. But he proves everyone wrong. He is just a big game performer by its absolute definition, and I really respect that on him. And him, he knows that he doesn't have to go full throttle in the regular season. I mean, the Miami Heat still finished with the number 1 record in the league, even though he did not play basically at 100%. But when you need him the most, the Miami Heat know this. People who have watched the league the last few years absolutely know this. Jimmy Butler will and maybe be the best player on the court on any series. He can make that argument, and that's why he is for me at number 9. Justin, I know he is out of yours, but let's see. Like, what do you think about that?
We're actually doing him a disservice because you forget to mention that Tyler Hero was missing half of that series.
Oh yeah,
that performance from Jimmy Butler, like, that was out of this world, and a lot of us forget because Boston made the finals, but we are a Jimmy Butler 3-point shot away from talking about the Miami Heat in the finals with Golden State Warriors. Like, that was a shot, and he just front rimmed it. Like, and I feel like it do a disservice because every time I want to leave Jimmy out of my top 10, he has these playoff performances. I'm like, and he's such a great all-round player. As we talk about the best one-on-one defenders, a great passer. I love good pass. So for number 9, sorry for all the rambling.
Yeah.
I went with Jason Tatum. And it was hard because, recency bias. I can't get it out of my mind that entire playoff, the entire playoff run where he was. I know you said he's an improved passer, and he is, but the playmaking has to get better. And the turnovers were just terrible. Like, It,
Yeah,
his decision
100%.
was really, really, really bad. And someone pointed out something to me before that finals run, and I hadn't noticed it before. He may be a particularly poor finisher at the rim in traffic.
Yeah.
It blows my cool for somebody so big and so athletic. But we're talking about top 10 players, so we really have to go on to the actual pluses. I think he did a disservice because he actually is an above average defender in my
Yeah.
estimation. All the job he did on Kevin Durant in the first round. Incredible shot maker, mid range and long range. I think he settles too much for those sidestep threes, but I think he is only going to get better from here. And if he improves his shot selection and decision making, we talking about a top 5 player next year, year after next. Like, this guy is that good in terms of talent. But I had to stop him any further because, quite frankly, decision making leaves a lot to be desired.
No, that is 100% fair, and I think they can call me out on that. I think also he did struggle finishing in the paint, especially you could see in that Golden State Warriors series. I think for him, it's more about extending his arsenal, maybe getting a few more moves in his bag, especially getting to the rim, because for some reason he always settles for the Euro step into traffic and feels like there's no hop step in there, there's no spin move. There needs to be a bit more variety in his skill and his move set in order to get to the rim. But like you said, he's just gonna get better. He's only in his early 20s. This guy was in top 5 voting for MVP this year, and he's only gonna get better from here. I love the point you made. I think he will be a top 5 player eventually. Few decision-making quirks here and there, but I do believe he will get to that point eventually. Going into number 8, this is a weird one for me because it's one of those players that we mentioned beforehand, Justin, about one of those veterans that you just don't know where to put him, especially with this new wave of guys coming in. Hurts for me because he basically won that championship for us in 2019. I got to go with Kawhi Leonard here at number 8. And it was a tough position for me because Kawhi Leonard missed all of last year. He missed basically half of the playoffs the year prior. But you just can't, it's just impossible to remove him off a top 10 list because you just know that when he's back healthy this season, he's going to play what? I mean, he's probably going to play 60 games. He's not going to play 70 plus games. I think we have to move past that. But when you get to the playoffs, and there's the same thing I talked about Jimmy Butler. When you get to the playoffs and you have Kawhi Leonard on your team, he just takes his game to a whole nother level. We've seen this time and time again, whether it's with the Raptors, whether it's with the Clippers. We just can't forget about that. This guy's especially in the last few series, he's basically a 30-point per game scorer in the playoffs, and people fail to kind of don't really remember that. But he is just that good of a player. I could still consider him one of the best one-on-one defenders in this league. But really, the difference between him and Jimmy Butler, his shot making, his shot creation in the regular season, going into the playoffs, just a lot more consistent. And with Kawhi Leonard, he is just one of those guys. Probably still top 5 in the league. If you have him on your team in the finals, in the playoffs, they're probably a top 5 team to make it to the finals or go all the way. He's just that good of a player. And now that this Clippers team is healthy, now that Paul George is going to get back to 100%, and now they have an improved roster, there's no reason to believe that this team will not go deep into the playoffs, led by Kawhi Leonard. I'm expecting big things from him this year. I expect him to be back in that title picture this year. And there's just no way I could have kept him out of my top 10, so I have to put him here at number 8.
I can't add anything because I have the same player at number 8. I had the same dilemma as you. I didn't know where or what to do with Kawhi Leonard after missing essentially an entire year. But as you say, a guy who is so great at creating shots, a guy who is so great at being best one-on-one defender in the league in my estimation. I'd say between him and Drew Holiday, I just could not leave Kawhi Leonard out of a top 10 list, just like you, especially the playoff performer he is. And one of the last memories I have is that title run he had in Toronto. That is one of the greatest playoff runs I've seen by an individual player, and I've seen a lot of basketball. So
yeah,
I can't add any more other than to say it was just impossible for me to leave Kawhi Leonard off the top 10 list.
Yeah, and have you seen those pictures over the last few weeks or so, Justin? I mean, this guy looks ready. He looks like probably the best shape of his career and everything.
He's so massive. I wondered if he put on too much size, but he is a huge dude. No.
Yeah, he looks absolutely massive. You know that he's ready for the season. I just can't wait to see him back on the court. He is still one of the most fun guys to watch in the league. I mean, even just thinking about that last playoff run, I mean that like one finger block, like in the like against the Dallas Mavericks. Like, I mean, this guy's just amazing, and there's just no way that either of us could leave him off of the top 10. There's just no way. But going into my number 7, is this a little bit disrespectful? I don't know. I gotta go with the back-to-back runner-up MVP. I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid here at number 7. For me, Joel Embiid has everything you want in the center. And if you want to look at complete games between him and Jokic, you might say, you know what? I would rather have Joel Embiid. He is a monster in the defensive end. He can lead the league in scoring as he's shown this year. One of the best rebounders in the league. One of the best defenders in general in the league. Why wouldn't you want this guy? Well, injuries have always held Joel Embiid back from reaching his true potential. And I saw a video like the other day, and it kind of like encapsulates Joel Embiid perfectly for how good a player he is. He is like kind of like has like a very underwhelming resume. Yes, he's made some All NBA teams. Yes, he's made some All Star teams, but he hasn't made All NBA first team because of Jokic, which is unfortunate because they both play the center position. And then he hasn't even made it past the second round, and that's mostly due to either injuries on his own team or injuries that he has himself. And I think that's what's really holding him back from his true potential. I think he has top 5 talent in the league. And if he can go further into the playoffs as the number 1 guy on his team, I'll gladly put him in the top 5. But we haven't been able to see that yet with Joel Embiid. But there's just no denying it. I mean, there's a reason he's a back-to-back finals. He's a back-to-back MVP runner-up. Can do it all on the basketball court. This guy has like probably the best footwork of a big man I've seen ever. Like probably since Hakeem. I didn't really watch Hakeem, but I'm always enamored by his game ever since I was younger. And Embiid is the closest thing I could see to that in terms of footwork. And he's just a fantastic player, athletic as all hell. I have to put him at number 7. Some people might put him a bit higher, but I just need to see more success in the playoffs for him. But I have to put him at number 7.
Then you're not going to want to hear where you put it, but for 7, and this is, if you think you are being disrespectful, I can imagine what your viewers are about to tell me. So let me preface this by saying, right, you have been on my show, and I have LeBron James, depending on who you ask me, number 2 or number 3 of all time. Like all time, yeah. That's LeBron James. I have to believe Father Time is going to catch up. So TV, I have him at number 7. And
okay, that's fair.
That was so hard for me to do. But, and again, viewers, please understand, I'm not a LeBron hater. I absolutely believe he is, at the very least, a top 3 player of all time. But we are ranking players going into 2022, and maybe I am being very disrespectful. But with LeBron, the players I have above him, all of these guys are advancing deep in the playoffs of recent. In the last 2 years, whether his own fault or not, injuries, etc., he has A, missed the playoffs, and B, got eliminated in the first round the year before that. And if memory serves me correct, Lakers this season, again, injury to Anthony Davis and the fact that Russell Westbrook didn't work out. All of that being said, I think the Lakers were 25 and 32 without him, or with him on the floor, actually. And then every single player I have on this list, their teams are never going to be below 500 with them on the court. And again, I know there are a lot of, mitigating factors to that 25 and 32. But yeah, the other 6 players they have above LeBron, I just can't see a situation once they're in the court that they're losing. And please understand, folks, I absolutely love LeBron James. But I believe Father Time has to catch up, and we are going into year 20, year 21.
Yeah.
You're asking me to rank the best players going into this 2022-2023 season, and it hurts me to say this, but yeah, TV, I have LeBron at 7.
Yeah, no, I honestly that's completely reasonable. I think a lot of people are starting to finally. I mean, it's the thing about LeBron is for the past 15 years or so, he has been in that top 3 discussion in the league. So not having him in the top 3 just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel like you just don't want to accept it that LeBron is not a top 3 player in the league. But you've made some fair points. Time is catching up to him. His recent success has not been, even though 3 years ago he did win the championship. He did win the championship 3 seasons ago. Recent history, he's shown that injuries are catching up with him, and the Lakers aren't, particularly like world beaters with him even on the court. So that's
Let me
completely fair.
let me
Yeah.
just put qualifiers. Like I still like of the people I mentioned, like he's obviously one of the best passers in the league. I think that as much as we all know he is a great facilitator, I still think that's a part of the game that we really don't talk about. Like I'm going to say this, TV. I think of the players right now, he is a top 3 facilitator in this game without a shadow of a doubt for me.
Yeah.
And like as I said, my problem with putting him any higher than 7 is that the other 6 players I have above him, like they can physically carry a team right now. I don't know that LeBron James at this current age right now can do that. Like we're hearing rumors of the offense having to go through Anthony Davis, even though I know that's not going to happen. But like the other 6 players I have above them, you're not going to say that about them. Like they will
Okay.
focal
Yeah.
point their offense and they will carry the load. I know I'm going to get backlash from your followers and
Yeah.
love LeBron, but I couldn't put him any higher than 7.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. And you know what, Justin? We're gonna keep up the LeBron talk because I don't have him much further down than you do. I'm gonna in that number 6 position, give me Mr. LeBron James. And my biggest reasoning for him over Embiid, although Embiid again, 2-time MVP runner up, you would say, you know what, he has had a better, last 2 years than LeBron. I think that both of them having injury problems, especially like deep into the season, kind of like allows me to say that Embiid, although like he maybe has a slightly better stats and stuff, I think that LeBron is still like toe to toe with him. I don't think that Embiid is gonna be in his current state, unless he proves me wrong this year, cannot like stay healthy enough to lead a team past the second round. And LeBron, although hasn't made the playoffs the last 2 years, bro, I had to look at his numbers this morning. I think we forget 30 points per game, 6 assists, 8 rebounds for a 37-year-old. I mean, sometimes you got to look at that and just like, I know it's just basic stats, but you just got to look at that and like, how is he like? It's hard not to keep him in the top 5. It really is not. Still shooting 52% from the field, 36% from three, 76% from the free throw line. He is just an amazing player still. I think at this current age of time, again, it was so close. I was flipping back and forth, him or Embiid. I was planning to switch them positions constantly. I would have LeBron at this very moment slightly above Embiid. Not by much, but I think that his playmaking ability, his ability like still like late in games, you could just give him the ball no matter what. And we've just seen like yes, Flower Time is catching up with him, but I've been watching. I just like, been watching like highlights from this past season just because I miss basketball. This guy's still doing stuff that he was doing back when he was 25, 24, and it's absolutely insane that he is still able to play at this level. And again, there's just maybe a little bit of bias. I mean, he has dominated the Raptors for years on end. It just doesn't feel right putting him like any further down than 6 at the moment, at this very moment. So again, I think some people might be like raising an eyebrow that I have him over Embiid right now. But at this very moment, I just have LeBron just slightly over Embiid, so I have him at number 6.
Who? So 6. I actually was about to put this person, but I was like, I'm going to change this because I can't allow recency bias to dominate. So I'm going to push the guy I previously had at 6 one spot up. But it feels wrong for me to do this, but I'll do it anyway. At 6, I have Luka. I don't know if I have to say much other than the fact that, gosh, this is a shorter Larry Bird mixed with Steve Nash. Like this kid is really, really damn good. And my Phoenix Suns got a first-hand view of that. Like it wasn't pretty. I am not sure if there is one player who has as much say over what happens. If there's one player who dictates so much on the offensive floor outside of Steph Curry and Luca Doncic, like for a player his age, I don't know I've ever seen a player that smart with such a high basketball IQ since Magic Johnson. His passing, his ability to control off pick and rolls, like he is one step ahead of defenses at all times. Like he is a great scorer, he's a great playmaker, he's a great rebounder at his position. As I said, he only not obviously is not great defensively, and then he starts the year out of shape all the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
An issue with that lack of commitment to fitness, but like those are small issues when it comes to when you look at what Luca Doncic does. I've seen him like I've seen people break down Luka Doncic like on these YouTube videos, right? And the small things he does by anticipating defenses that you don't even see it on the court. If you're not looking, you'll not understand how much he's in control in those pick and rolls. Like, you kind of think the average or the lukewarm basketball fan will see him for his step back threes and not understand how high of a basketball IQ that Luka Doncic has for offensive player that controls everything. Like, yeah, he's my number 6. I had him initially at 5, and I feel like I'm doing it injustice as having at 6. But yeah, the player I had at 6, I think it was doing more of an injustice.
Yeah, okay, that's completely fair. Luka Doncic, you mentioned it perfectly. He sees the game just differently from everyone else in the league. And the only person I can really compare this to, I mean, you said young Larry Bird. If you just remember young LeBron James and how meticulous he was, along with his athletic ability, like it was just crazy to see at such a young age. Like Luka has that, and even though he's not the most athletic, and that was the big thing coming in, like, oh, Luka's not athletic enough for this league. He just knows like he is like 3 or 4 steps ahead of everyone else in that basketball court. And if you don't like focus on him like specifically, and I think like the last few years, some people are starting to get more and more aware of this. He is just that good of a player, probably one of the best minds in basketball at the moment. At number 6, I mean, it's not going to be the end. I talk about Luka Doncic. We're going to get into him a bit later, but yeah, number 6, Luka Doncic. I understand your reasoning for sure. Going in at number 5, I just talked about like we talked about some of the older guys in the league. We went through Kawhi, we went to LeBron. Let me cap it off here at number 5. Let's talk about Mr. Diva, the guy who has taken over all of the offseason headlines. Let's talk about Kevin Durant. He is at my number 5 spot. And I always have to preface this. I mean, this guy literally tore his Achilles in the NBA Finals in 2019. And he comes back in 2020, 2021, whatever. And he still looks like exactly the same, if not better than he did. This guy's like an absolute freak of nature, 7 feet, can shoot above anyone, has one of the most lethal moves in this game in his step back. He is just one of the best scorers of all time. That's the thing with Kevin Durant. Inside, outside, mid range, he could just do it all. He is that good of an NBA player there. My only thing with Kevin Durant, because like we've seen him over the past decade, we know what Kevin Durant is. We know what we're gonna get from him. But the thing about Kevin Durant, and especially these last 2 years, that Brooklyn Nets team should not have gone eliminated in the second round, nor the first round this year. Especially of how good that team was, there was no reason that either of those teams should have been out that early. And just him being a part of probably the most overrated team in the league the past 2 years, I think like pushes him down in like some spots where some people might have him even a bit higher. Yes, we know his ability as a basketball player, but the other 4 guys ahead of him, I think over the past 2 years have had more successful seasons and just like have played at just as an equal or maybe just around the same level as Kevin Durant. And he doesn't he moved to Brooklyn because he wanted to be out of Steph Curry's shadow. He wanted to be the guy on his team. He's had 2 cracks of it, and he finally realized, you know what? Maybe being the number 1 is not for me. Yes, he is a skilled player. Yes, he is probably one of you could say he's top 2 most skilled player in the league right now. But I just think that his leadership qualities, his ability to lead teams further into the playoffs, I just think it's not there. And maybe it just was never there. Maybe being the number 1 guy, although he has the skill set to be that guy, maybe it just isn't for him. I have him built lower just because I feel like I could trust these next 4 guys as the number 1 going forward, especially coming into the season. Again, kind of like a hot take, but I'm gonna have Kevin Durant at my number 5.
Well, it would have been a hot take because I had him at 6, and I decided, you know what?
Yeah.
That recency bias of that Boston series, that terrible Boston series, knock him any further. So I too have Kevin Durant at 5. I'll let you ahead of Luka because I know you're going to put Luka above him. And the reason I had to put him up 1 from my number 6 spot, previously I had him, is because those playoffs aside, Kevin Durant still had a great season. I think he's like averaged like 30 points on 52% from the field. Like 52 from the field.
He's a perimeter guy as well. He's a perimeter guy.
It's crazy. Like, as you say, he's not a post player. He's not playing in paint. Scoring like averaging 52 from the field as a perimeter player, that is absolutely crazy. And the reason we thought that Brooklyn could possibly still contend for a title is mainly because of him. But I agree with you, TV. I think, well, I mean, he can be a number one option on a team because we may talk about Golden State teams. I think he was the best player. But in terms of being the leader, that's not him. Like, he is not that guy. He's not a guy to lead our locker room. He's not a guy to pull people together. He's not that. I think history has shown that's not dude. Like, he went to Golden State. He arguably was the best player on the team, but he was not the leader by any stretch of the match.
Steph's team.
It's Steph's team, and even though you could say Draymond is the leader of that squad, that is not Kevin Durant, and that is a knock on him. And quite frankly, I couldn't put him any higher than this because that Boston series was just absolutely dreadful. Like, TV, I don't even think he shot from the field 38% overall. Like, we're supposed to be the best player in the field, and you got absolutely like embarrassed by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. These are players who are smaller than you. And I've always had this knock on him that also, if you're strong enough, you can get into Kevin Durant's body and deny him the ball. And that is a bad look for 7-foot superstar. So I too have him at number 5.
Yeah. So I mean, like, Kevin Durant, again, I think we both know that he is like a all-world talent. Man, I just think that like, I mean, like, just back one more thing, just this is why he wants out of the situation. He's done being the leader. I think he realizes himself that he cannot be a leader of a team. That's why he's asking to be on some of the best teams in the league. So I mean he wants to be on your Phoenix Suns team. And let's be honest, if he goes to that team, it's gonna be Chris Paul still leading the locker room and all that. So
from being in Golden State, you want your own thing, and then all of a sudden you want to trade to Miami or Phoenix, or now we're hearing you talk of Philadelphia because you've been hanging back out with James Harden. Like, I don't want to go down this lane, but at what point does Kevin Durant not feel he needs to compete?
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, I haven't been podcasting the last month and a half, so I haven't been talking about this. And honestly, at this point, I'm kind of glad because I remember last year talking about Ben Simmons to the absolute extreme, and I felt like I would have done the same with Kevin Durant. But you know what? That's a topic for another episode. Let's move on to my number 4. And this is where I'm going to place the back-to-back MVP. Give me Nikola Jokic here at number 4. Again, some people, like, we hear people on TV, especially Nick Wright. This guy says that he is the worst MVP in NBA history. And if you just watch, honestly, like, 5 games of Nikola Jokic, you can understand just how majestic he is as a player, how unique, and how much he just impacts the game. Because the thing about Nikola Jokic and what I love about him so much is that you have to keep your eyes on him at all times, not just for his scoring ability, but just because he's already like a top 3 passer in the league at this very moment. Like, he could find everyone at any time. Like, you can't double team him. This is what's crazy about Nikola Jokic. You cannot double team him. Like, with a lot of superstars, especially with like basically most of these guys on the list, you want to mitigate them, just throw a second guy at him. That's how you get the ball out of his hands. But if you want the ball out of Nikola Jokic's hand, he's gonna find the empty guy every single time. And the fact that he won back-to-back MVPs just shows that, like, the league knows people know now that he is just this good of a player, and he's doing this without Jamal Murray and without Michael Porter Jr. So yes, he hasn't made it past the first round the past 2 years. Actually, no, 2 years ago I think he made it to the second round, but it's different now. It's gonna be different coming into this season. Now his team has expectations. Jamal Murray coming back, Michael Porter Jr. It's different for the Denver Nuggets, and you're gonna see people are gonna realize that Nikola Jokic, although 2-time MVP, hasn't really made past the second round. He did make the conference finals back in the bubble. You're going to see him finally as a winning player once again this season. He's going to completely prove it to everyone. He is just that good of a player, and just we talk about IQ with Luca Doncic. Nikola Jokic is just up there. He just knows the game inside out. He doesn't talk a lot. He's a lead by example guy, but you just would love to be his teammate. All you have to do is, honestly, even for players like Jeff Green, like last year, he played a massive role because you know all you have to do? Cut. Just cut to the rim. Nikola Jokic is going to find you. Find the corner. That's where he's best at shooting. Nikola Jokic is that good. And although some people might not have him as a great defender, I still think he's an above average defender at his position. Especially he's underrated, especially in steals. He always gets his hand in the passing lanes. But his impact, especially on the offensive end, you can make the argument that he's the best offensive player in the league. I have him at number 4. It's like he's a 2-time MVP for a reason. That's why I have him right there.
Me too. I have him at 4. And I'll go as far as to say even it is probably best in your best interest not to double team Nikola Jokic, name straight up, because we all know by now the greatest part of his game is his passing. I thought that, and I'm old enough to see Domantas Sabonis' father, Arvydas Sabonis, and I never thought I would see a big man pass as good as Arvydas Sabonis. And well, what did I know? Because here's Nikola Jokic. Like, I have never seen a man at that size have such a playmaking ability, and it just marvels how good he is able to manipulate defensives just with his eyes, his passing ability, and like, I don't want to make it seem that he's just a passer, because he's a phenomenal scorer, great rebounder. This is a guy, and for those who knock him for winning back-to-back MVPs, I'm like, you're not watching basketball. Because the first point, as you mentioned, he did all this without Jamal Murray, without Michael Porter Jr. And then on top of that, when you look at all of the offensive advanced metrics, Nikola Jokic led almost all of them. Not one, not two, not three, almost all of them across the board. Nikola Jokic led in advanced metrics, and then his usage rate was not even that high, which makes it even more phenomenal. Like, his usage rate was actually below Giannis and Joel Embiid. So when I found out, I'm like, so you're telling me your efficiency is sky high and your usage rate is not that high for, a player that is playing with his two next best players? Give me Nikola Jokic any day of the year. Yeah, you have him at number 4, and you've said it also. I don't need to add any more.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic is that great of a player. Probably won't. It's really hard to win. Like I don't think anyone has won like back-to-back MVPs, so it's probably not gonna happen with him. But that just doesn't take it away. This guy's gonna like prove this year he's a winning player, and I'm excited for the Nuggets this year because we've been waiting to see the full lineup of him, Murray, and Porter back together. Just excited because the Denver Nuggets are gonna be must-watch basketball once again this year. A big part because Nikola Jokic is just that great of a player. Now going into my number 3, this is where it gets really interesting because you have him at number 6. I have him a lot higher than that. This is the guy who I sent like a lot of like some waves on TikTok as well. Give me Luka Doncic here at number 3. And I know Nikola Jokic back-to-back MVPs and everything, but for me, Justin already mentioned it when he was at number 6. Best basketball IQ in the league. This guy is just an offensive maestro. And people who thought that his athletic ability wasn't going to match up with NBA players, it doesn't matter. This guy plays in slow motion. Like, everyone has to chase him. He dictates the entire pace of the game. The entire pace of the game goes around Luka Doncic. He just has that complete control of everything. It's just so impressive to see at 22, 23 years of age. It's absolutely insane to see from that type of player. And for me, Luka Doncic has kind of suffered from the fact that compared to some of the other guys on the list, even back to Nikola Jokic, when he made it to the Western Conference Finals, he had Jamal Murray, who was having one of the best a very surprisingly good playoff run that time. Michael Porter Jr., who was a 20-point per game scorer. Even players like Kevin Durant, who have players like Kyrie Irving, James Harden around him. LeBron James had a second guy, and Anthony Davis. Luka Doncic made it to the Western Conference Finals with Spencer Dinwiddie as his second best player, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jalen Brunson. Like, this is not the type of supporting cast you see from any really players on this list. And he still was able to beat the number 1 team in basketball in your Phoenix Suns without a prototypical second star on his team. This really reminds me of shades of young LeBron when he made it to the finals when he was 22 years old in 2007. Maybe Luka might not get to that point, but being in the Western Conference Finals in this day and age, you got rid of your second star in Kristaps Porzingis for Spencer Dinwiddie, made the team perfect for Luka Doncic, and you see the results. He flourishes in this type of environment where he has all the space in the world. He could find players left, right, and center because we know he's one of the best passers in the league. This guy just has that it factor, and he has the leadership, everything about it. And just give him just a little bit more help. And I think that having Christian Wood is probably going to be the second best player he's had his entire time in Dallas. If you really think about it, I think he's going to do better than what Kristaps Porzingis did, especially early on in his Dallas Mavericks career. Luka Doncic is gonna be that guy. I'm excited to see what he does, but I just want him to get that second guy. And once you get that second guy, the sky's the limit for this Mavs team and Luka Doncic. I have to have him at number 3. It's bold, especially over a 2-time MVP. But man, Luka Doncic is that guy, and I'm gonna be forever like singing his praises because before the draft, I was like, ain't no way that this guy of this caliber should not be going number one. I know DeAndre Ayton's really good, but his ability is just unmatched compared to the rest of the draft. And now he's proving it. He is literally one of the best players in the league. I have him at number 3. Justin, what do you think?
All I'm going to add to that is to say my Phoenix Suns absolutely fumbled the football because not only did we not choose Luca Doncic number 1 in that draft when everything told me that we should, we hired, and I know a lot of people forgot this, we hired his European coach as a coach.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that guy, we hired him right before the draft. So in my mind, I was like, all right, well, if you hired this guy, you're obviously drafting Luka Doncic, and then we take DeAndre Ayton, who we then turned around and refused to give max money to until Indiana forced us to. And don't get me wrong, I have another DeAndre Ayton situation or rant coming at some point in the future. But yeah, like Ayton obviously is not Luka Doncic. I don't know how we didn't draft him number 1 and had his coach at the time. But yeah, y'all don't want to hear that. Y'all want to hear my number 3. So here's my surprise at number 3. I have him a lot higher than you did. You had him at 7, I think.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, and I know I am banking on a lot. Like, this is a huge gamble because I have to bank, obviously, on his health, which is not a smart thing to do. But I think we saw that improved situation this season, and it was unlucky in the playoffs because it was an orbital fracture. So it wasn't a situation where, it was unhealthy more so than he took a blow to his face. Yeah. But give me Joel Embiid at number 3 because there's absolutely nothing Joel Embiid can't do on the floor. You made mention of Hakeem Olajuwon, and thankfully I got to see most of, if not all of Hakeem Olajuwon's career. Like, this, as you said, is as close as you're going to get in terms of footwork. This guy is absolutely dominant in low post. He has a great mid-range shot. I think he sometimes leans too heavily on that 3 ball, but he's an absolute beast in terms of scoring down low and protecting the paint. Like, and you're not going to abuse him on a pick and roll. Like, this is a very, very good defensive center. Like, you don't have a liability on that, and you have a very, very good defensive player. And like, he may be indeed the best. Forget indeed. He is definitely the best low post scorer in the league right now. And I think they need to use or force him into that low blocks more. He is an extremely good passer out of the post. Like, Joel Embiid is that guy. And I think, as you mentioned, the only thing holding back Embiid is his health.
Yeah, I think, again, I mean, I talked about it at number 7. There's like literally like very little holes in this game except for his health. The fact that he hasn't made it past the second round is an absolute travesty in his career so far. But honestly, fair enough. Joel Embiid has literally, like, it feels like no faults in his game. My only thing too, and I like how you mentioned the orbital fracture, because I was watching Game 6 of that series against the Toronto Raptors. Of course, that's where my team got absolutely demolished by like 30+ points. But he was in the game with like 2 minutes left, caught an elbow from Pascal Siakam, and that basically just ruined the 76ers' chances, like, from there. I mean, we can call him injury prone, but he's just one of the most unlucky players in the league. Like, when it really comes down to it, the Ben Simmons situation the year prior, the amount of injuries, like, especially, I mean, like, the one time where it looked like the 76ers had a legit chance of going to the finals, he lost to a Kawhi Leonard shot with 6 bounces. Like, it's just unlucky. It's just like unlucky, like Joel Embiid's career so far. If he can stay healthy, there's no doubt in my mind that the 76ers could, like, make it to a Eastern Conference Finals to potentially an NBA Finals. But that's a lot to bank on, man. Joel Embiid's health is something that's, like, extremely hard to bank on.
It really is.
It is extremely tough. But he is an extremely good player. Excited to see what this 76ers team could do this year because they have absolutely improved. And I expect another MVP level season from Joel Embiid as well. And by the looks of things, I think we have the same number 1 and 2. Clearly, it's a clear number 1, 2. Maybe it might be a different order, but I do not think so. But let's start off at number 2. We're gonna go with the 4-time NBA champion, current defending champion of the Golden State Warriors. Let's talk about Stephen Curry, best point guard in the league. Justin, we've had a lot of conversations about him over the past few months, especially after the NBA Finals. But there's no doubt in my mind he's still a top 2 player in this league. And it's like a lot of that, I mean, obviously, I think people like underrate his defensive abilities. He's still a solid defender. But I haven't seen someone like especially in my lifetime, with this much gravitas around him when it comes to the ball. Because yes, I talk about like some players who you have to keep an eye on at all times. Steph Curry, his best ability might not even be him touching the ball. Just the way he runs around the court is something that I have not seen in my lifetime. And just watching it year in, year out just amazes me. Because he can, just the way he plays can fit into any system. Yes, we've only seen him in the Golden State system, but he can hit 3-pointers, like by far the best in the league, the best off the ball player I've probably seen in my life. And he is still like one of the best. Like he's still a fantastic passer. He leads it, like he's near the top in steals every single season. But just the amount of attention this guy brings to this game, and he still averages basically 30 a game, like every season, gets over 253s every season. It's just amazing. And then he proved this past season, even though like some people like maybe brought off the Golden State Warriors, they'll still win a championship. Steph Curry could still be the best guy on the championship team. And he's not even close to being done yet. He's still like this game, like his game can like last another 5+ years just because of how like it feels like how sustainable it's gonna be. But yeah, Stephen Curry, one of the best offensive players of all time. We're definitely gonna if Justin's back on the pod next week when we talk about top 10 players all time, there's definitely gonna be a discussion over there. So there's gonna be more discussion about Steph Curry. But currently in the NBA, I have him at number 2.
As you said, our two top players are easily the same. So like, I don't know what more to say other than like you to add. I've never seen a player bend defenses quite like this man, and I've seen my fair share of great players. And I really do mean I've seen my fair share, and I've never seen both on or off the ball, as you mentioned, a single player, and we're talking about a small guy, 6'3". We're not talking about a low post player. We're not talking about a big dominant wing. A 6'3" guy bend defenses like this guy, and you would figure, well, he would do it on the ball like every other point guard who plays high pick and roll. Nope, he's arguably more prolific or worse. Like he is more impactful off the ball than he is on it. Like I sit down and I remember during the initial Golden State runs, I would tell myself like, all right, maybe you should do this, or it can't be that hard to guard Steph Curry. And what the hell do I know? Like it's almost impossible. I don't know what you do. I do know that Boston hedging their bets on making Steph Curry a scorer was the worst possible choice that they could possibly do in the NBA Finals. Like,
Yeah.
them banking on the fact that they'll take away everyone else and make Steph Curry beat them was probably the single most stupid decision I've ever seen in NBA Finals history. But
Yeah.
I think Ime Udoka as a coach, Steph Curry is that good, like that good, and I may not have him in my top 10 all time. That's a shout out for next week's episode. Yeah. Reality is, like, this man is still an all time great, top 15 without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything to add to what you just said. Like, this man is. I was ready, right to wait off the Golden State Warriors, but what the hell do I know about basketball?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, a 6'3" guy, I've never seen like someone strike more fear into defenses just by just being on the floor. No matter what he does, it just strikes fear because you have to keep his defenders to keep his eyes on him 24/7. I mean, I just remember like the season even before this season versus the Memphis Grizzlies in that play-in tournament where Dillon Brooks was like starting from the whole 92 feet, just completely just like hands on him, was like, you are not going anywhere. And honestly, if that's how you defend a player, I don't know what else to say. That just tells you all you need to know about Steph Curry. He is just that impactful, that great of a player. That's why we both have him at number 2. What are you gonna say?
In defensive TVFC defenses give up layups to players simply because they're afraid of a Steph Curry 3.
Yeah. The fact that his 3-point shot is just as lethal as his amazing layup packages as we see every single year, that just tells you all you need to know about how great of an offensive threat, how great of an offensive player Steph Curry is. But by my calculations, we're here at number 1. There's no shot of a doubt in, I think, a lot of people's minds. The best player in the NBA is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, the 2-time MVP, NBA champion. Yeah, he just does like some people like, I mean, like, what was it? A few years ago, James Harden said like, oh, he's just not as skillful. This guy does everything on the basketball court. Like you can mention that he is the best defender in basketball. He still will be close to leading the league in scoring. One of the best rebounders, a very above average passer. He can defend the best player. He could be the help defender. He could be a pick and roll like handler, pick and roll receiver. Like anything you want to do with Giannis, he'll just fit because he is just that versatile of an NBA player. His elite ability on both ends of the court just proves like every single year that Giannis is just an amazing player. Honestly, the only thing that really stopped him this year was the Chris Middleton injury. If Chris Middleton was healthy, we might have seen another back-to-back finals appearances, maybe back-to-back championships from the Milwaukee Bucks. But Giannis still killed it. Yes, there are times where defenses have to send triple teams and the whole wall defense on Giannis. Sometimes they'll stop him, but he's still gonna give you like 28 points a game no matter what. He is just that good of a player, and the way he impacts the defensive end as well is unlike any other player in the league when defending on the ball and also as a help defender. He could just do everything on the basketball court. I mean, he could score, pass, everything. If that's not skill, I don't know what is. Giannis Antetokounmpo, best player in the league. I think, Justin, if you have anything that was said to that, I think we're both having him at number one.
Yeah, and that's going to add the fact that James Harden is crazy. I don't know what that fat suit did to him in terms of changing his mind or affecting his mental state. Like, I'll put it this way, right? We've seen a league with Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and we can go on and on and on. Bill Russell. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is the only player to have been named to the first team for 4 straight years. And think about that.
Yeah.
For all the names I just called, and Giannis is the first and only player to have made it to an NBA All-First team in 4 straight years. And
there's no doubt, and there's really like no doubt in anyone's mind. Yeah.
Made a mistake. Like there is no doubt. Giannis Antetokounmpo easily is the best player in the league, and I've shockingly been saying this actually for the last 4 years, and thankfully people are now hearing me. Like Giannis is really that good. And I remember, those who casually watch basketball claim he needs to get a 3-point shot. And I'm like, why?
Why would you want him away from the rim? Like what?
Why do you not want him at the rim? It doesn't hurt the Milwaukee Bucks because the Milwaukee Bucks shoot at every other position. The team is perfectly built for him to do what he does. Like you said, like right now he may be the most punishing player at the rim. Like I don't know how much times I've seen Giannis lay out the ball because he really doesn't. I don't know how many players stand in front of Giannis when he's going at the rim. As you said it, like he can be the pick and roll passer, he can be the pick and roll receiver. We are talking about a team that was a Chris Middleton appearance away from probably winning back-to-back titles. Giannis Antetokounmpo is so good that even without Chris Middleton, starting somebody like Grayson Allen, who should not be in anybody's playoff rotation, that team still went ahead 3-2 on the Boston Celtics. Think about that.
Yeah.
And it took a heroic Game 6 performance from Jason Tatum for Boston to survive Milwaukee without a 3-time All-Star Chris Middleton, because Giannis Antetokounmpo is just that guy. Like a 2 MVP who won Defensive Player of the Year the same year. Then the next season, what does he do? He wins Finals MVP, and against my Suns, unfortunately, drops a 50-piece in Game 6. Like, who has ever scored 50 points
in a closeout Finals game? Yeah.
And it's not because it's my home state, but Giannis, without a shadow of a doubt, TV
is the best player in the league. I 100% agree. Just when I was going through this list, I had to look at some like Giannis highlights from this season. I always it's just become. It's funny how we see like a one dribble from half court, 2 steps, and we just said, oh, that's just normal from Giannis nowadays. It's just completely normal. That's just how crazy it's become with Giannis. It's gone to a point where some people might not even pick him for MVP anymore. It's like, this is just what Giannis does. Even though 30, 12, and 7 isn't it shouldn't be something that we should bat an eye at. Still being one of the best defensive players in the league, but that's just how good he is, and he has proven these last few years, especially, that he is the best player in the league. But yeah, those are our 2 top 10 lists, top 10 players currently in the NBA. Let us know down below whether you agree or disagree. We have some guys at the same here, but especially with those guys at number 3, we have completely different. Let us know what you think of that. But this is where we're going to end today's episode. But before we go, I'm going to throw it over to Justin, talk about your show, talk about what you have coming up. I know you're going to be going in a bit of a vacation / break from the show, but let us know what you have, especially coming up for the NFL and NBA season.
Thank you so much first for having me, TV, and hopefully, even though I'm on vacation, I will probably get to chime in for next week's top 10 all-time episode.
Yeah.
But to find us, like, it's just hashtag ThisJust1n on all socials. Please put in the hashtag, because if not, you're going to be taken to Matt Skelman's show, and you don't really want that. You want hashtag ThisJust1n. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter, but primarily we are on YouTube every Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're taking a 3-week hiatus because I am indeed going back home to Barbados, where I'm from. But yeah, when we come back, we will be probably previewing or reviewing the NFL Week 1, depending on what time that episode is. But whenever you come, like, subscribe to hashtag ThisJust1n. Just make sure you show all the love to TV on basketball, because this guy knows his basketball.
Yeah, 100%. I've been on a show. It's always a fun time. Whenever they talk about basketball, I know Justin's always gonna come over to call, and I'm always open to do it. I've always loved being on his show. So definitely go check him out. All the links in the description, also in the link tree to go find him. And yeah, thank you again coming on, Justin, for the return episode of the podcast. It's been a month and a half, but I still think this top 10 episode was absolutely fantastic. So thank you for coming on.
Always. It's just so unfortunate that we see basketball similarly, so it's not going to be much of a debate. There's some crazy guys out there that I know would put some players a lot higher. So it's like,
yeah, don't worry. We've talked to those guys a bunch in the pod, and and hopefully maybe we can get them on for next week's episode, because that one is definitely going to be an absolute banger. So be on the lookout for that. But this is where we're going to end today's episode. Thank you guys for watching or listening. Remember to show love on all the podcast channels. Like, share, subscribe if you're on YouTube, as well as hit the notification bell so you won't miss an episode. And remember to follow TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to see what's coming up for the pod, and also just for daily NBA content. Thank you guys for all the support. Hope you have a fantastic day. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Take it easy, guys. TV signing out. Here with Justin. Peace.